Kimi Antonelli is very close to signing a deal with Mercedes, and it's very likely that the announcement will be official during the Monza GP, which is more or less his home race, and it will continue to be in the following period. Be that as it may, Mercedes still refuse to close the door for a potential Verstappen move beyond 2025, and with Antonelli now being perceived as the future of the team, is this bad news for Russell? And if so, where could the Brit find his next home if not with the Silver Arrows? It's safe to say that Antonelli is the next driver alongside Russell, because if you think about it, there's no other candidate that makes sense for Mercedes right now. The situation is not perfect though, because they have been pressurised into this decision due to Hamilton's departure. But with drivers like Sainz being gone from the market, they are now focusing on the youth and making bold moves, as Wolff admitted earlier this season. And the praise that Antonelli received in the past couple of months from high-profile names like Andrew Chauvelin, the trackside engineer for the Brackley-based squad, goes to show that there are a lot of things that Antonelli should expect in a positive manner in the following period, with many tests scheduled for Imola in terms of Antonelli learning the race pace and saving the tyres throughout an entire stint. Elaborating on this, Chauvelin said, "Kimi has a very impressive CV for someone so young, and no doubt he will have a bright future, but he looks like one of those naturally gifted talents that everyone is trying to find. To be honest, where we're racing doesn't really affect our choice of drivers. We want the two best drivers and we need to make the best car, and the team is going to focus on that. If you get those ingredients right, you'll do fine, but certainly where we are in the competitive order doesn't affect whether we're looking for an experienced driver or a young driver." This is something that Mercedes cannot really choose from right now, because there aren't too many choices left on the grid unless they want to do the funniest thing ever and pair up Russell with Bottas from 2025 onwards. This might have made a bit of sense if Mercedes were struggling to understand the concept of the car and would have needed a bit more of an experienced help from a driver like Bottas. However, with the team now being the second one on the grid in terms of scoring most wins after Red Bull, it's obvious that the only path for them is ahead and that they need a young driver to pull them in that direction. Antonelli has also opened up on this situation, and while stating that there is a big pressure on his shoulders because of the connections that he has with Mercedes in the past couple of months, further facilitated by the departure of Hamilton, he doesn't fear being judged by anyone on the grid, let alone from Mercedes. As he went on to say, "Some degree of worry, I think, is always there. The prospect of not being able to perform, I think, frightens everyone. My approach is to see it as a great opportunity to learn, grow, and also enjoy the moment. I'm not afraid of being judged. I know Mercedes has a clear opinion about my potential. Already this season in Formula 2 in the championship didn't kick off in the best way, but there were no negative thoughts. I am quite calm. If the opportunity presented itself to me, I would take it with eagerness and try to make the most out of it. Recently, there has been some pressure on me with all the rumours about next year, but I've always tried to enjoy it. I am enjoying the opportunities I have." Of course, there are other opportunities that Mercedes would much rather consider for Antonelli, such as a year's worth of driving in Alpine, because this is the team that is likely to become a customer to Mercedes from next year onwards, which automatically means that the Silver Arrows will have a say as to who drives in the French team. But it's not nearly as big of a connection as they have with a team like Williams, for example, who have decided to go in a completely different and independent way, as they went on to sign Sainz for 2025, with rumours that he could be looking for a seat in a more competitive squad, if there is one, to open in teams like Mercedes or Red Bull. Wolff has also opened up about the idea of bringing Antonelli next to Russell, but still didn't rule out a move for Verstappen if the Dutchman is lured by the development that's been going on in Mercedes lately. He said, "The criteria for our next driver are simple. We want the best available. At the moment, my first option is Kimi Antonelli. Of course, there are risks signing a young driver like him. It's not so much about his talent as a driver, but Antonelli would be exposed to the media and the skill of George Russell, who is one of the best drivers on the grid. But Kimi has huge potential. His speed and talent are already at a certain level. He just lacks experience." An alternative scenario is, of course, Verstappen, but at the moment it doesn't seem realistic to me. I will continue to observe the market. I am not sure how the situation will evolve at Red Bull. It's safe to say that the situation in Red Bull is all but stable right now because the Austrian team have found themselves in between some tough times of finding it hard to develop their car and seeing senior figures like Wheatley and Newey depart for other teams on the grid. While this may be perceived as a normal process from any other F1 expert out there due to the fact that every F1 personnel is looking for a change, it's too much of a coincidence that all of this happened right after the internal power struggle of the Austrian team and the fact that they prolonged Perez's life in Red Bull in the last 10 races of the season, when it was widely reported that he will receive a replacement in the form of Ricciardo or Lawson. 2025 will be a very interesting season to watch out for the drivers' choices because Verstappen himself is now adamant that his decision won't be brought based on talent, but with a cold head now that Red Bull have dropped the ball significantly with the RB20. Verstappen spoke about his future and said that while loyalty is highly appreciated and not many teams have it with their drivers, a move out of Red Bull is not ruled out if the development of the car continues to go in a downward spiral. Adding further to this extent, Verstappen said, "I think the most important thing is not to make decisions based on emotion because that will always backfire. I am patient myself. I don't over worry things. I appreciate the fact that I have a very long history with the team. Loyalty is very important and I think it is not always there in Formula One. Fortunately, in my case, it is there, and I think it is mutual for us." We couldn't have had a clearer sign when it comes to Verstappen's future, and while we are the last people in the world that would fire further speculation regarding this matter, the analysis and the words that have been said from high-profile people regarding the seats in Formula One that are left vacant speak louder than any speculation in the world. Now, the pressure will definitely be on Antonelli to prove himself as the superstar that he has been perceived from the F1 world, even though Mercedes have tried to keep everything under the radar, and the Italian himself said that he is not actually looking too much into this next step in his career, as he would much rather focus on the F2 campaign as of now. But with F1 being an entirely different championship compared to F2, and with Antonelli already impressing the big faces in Mercedes, the question is whether or not the seat next to him will be taken by Verstappen in the foreseeable future, or will Russell continue to build himself as the leader of the team. Obviously, the Brit has been found in this position thanks to Hamilton's departure, and while his results were promising at the beginning of the year, once the car started to find more pace, Hamilton made sure to let his teammate know that he won't back down without a fight, and the same should be expected from Antonelli too. The lap times that he's been doing with the W13 and the W14 are quite competitive and on level with the current F1 drivers, and if the opportunity arises to bring Verstappen from 2026 onwards, there could be a genuine concern as to where Russell would end up with the new regulations. A potential home for him could be Audi, as they would be more than willing to have him, a race-winning and young talent, developing their car after all of the knowledge he would bring from Mercedes. But only time will tell if this fairy tale will come to reality. With all this in mind, do you think that Antonelli and Verstappen are a realistic duo in Formula One in Mercedes? And if so, where do you think this will put Russell on the grid? Let us know in the comments below, and once you've done that, have a look at the video that's appearing on your screen right now.